Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Folklore Unlocked podcast. I'm your host today, Ethan, and I'm here with Austin.
What's up?
And as you can see, we are going to be doing this podcast on the Red Ghost. So, starting out, a description of the beast. It's a large red camel, dromedaries, so one hump, and people would say it was devilish looking. I think possibly because of the skeleton that was on it. But it had a bleach white human skeleton on its back with some hair and skin attached, and you can see some pictures that people have drawn of it on, I guess, the YouTube video. Do you have anything to add, Austin?
Uh, not yet. Anyway, I'm not a camel expert, so
Well, this is one thing that I actually am kind of an expert on. Because, well, not really an expert, but I did make a video on just camels fairly recently, like a couple days ago. So I might have to link that to the video. Uh, but yeah, the location for it was Eagle Creek, Arizona, USA, and the year was 1883. I have a map here of basically just Arizona, and Eagle Creek is just kind of the lower southeast side of Arizona. Couldn't get any great pictures of it, but there's a map. Do you want to go over the background, Austin? Since you said you did look up some stuff about this, do you know about the United States Camel Corps?
yes, I do.
Okay, you can go ahead and go over that then.
There were numerous, I don't know, proposals to Congress or the U.S. Congress or Senate about using camels as pack animals for the U.S. Army, and in 1855 then Secretary of War Jefferson Davis, probably better known for his time as President of the Confederacy, kind of got the idea through, and the they cost about $30,000 for the project, which is a little over $1 million today for 70 camels.
Mm.
But since the Civil War happened and it started in 1860, most of the camels were sold or abandoned.
I thought that was kind of sad whenever I read about that. I'm like, they were getting ready to start up this thing. Like, I think they're supposed to be used for pack animals. Yeah. And I think that'd be a fairly good thing to use around Arizona stuff like that. You think it's kind of deserty and stuff.
Exactly. So,
But I have heard camels are very temperamental, so I mean, they might not have been the best use. Horses probably would have been better.
well, it was kind of like an experimental project when it first started, and apparently it was going really well.
Yeah, yeah. I read some stories about like when they went over to like Egypt and that like that area over there to pick up camels and stuff. And apparently, I think around the same time Britain was trying to buy some camels too, and they had trouble finding camels. And finally, I think some people just were like, okay, we just want to get rid of these people, so it's like let's just give them some camels. And I think the first trip they only got like 33, and they had to make a second trip over. But
But like, and the only reason that really ended was, the American Civil War just so happened to start,
yeah,
which will cover some stories related to the Civil War in a sense later on, but not camel related.
So Austin, how do you think the skeleton ended up on the camel? Like that's one of the things. Like people have like two ideas here. Was a prospector dying of thirst, trying tying himself to the camel to hopefully the camel will bring it to water, and then a soldier learning to ride and dying in the saddle. I mean, those are like two things that people have thought of. Which do you think is more likely?
Well, considering they were being used by the U.S. military for things like this, I lean towards the soldier learning to ride, just tragically dying on the saddle.
Do you have any other theories about it, or do you just like believe one of those?
Believe it was the soldier dying.
Okay. I didn't know for sure if you had any other ideas, like, oh, it could be this or that.
Usually, the most obvious thing is the thing that it is,
Yes, yes.
and for me, the most obvious situation that this person on the camel ended up dying was the soldier trying to learn to ride the camel and dying in the saddle.
I'm kind of wondering how he ended up dying in the saddle because it wasn't like they were fighting yet or anything like that, so it wasn't like he would get shot, I wouldn't think. And then also, just being on a camel, I don't think would kill you or anything. So, I mean, I don't know how he died in the saddle. That's one of my questions, at least.
Maybe the camel went haywire and ran off with him on the saddle, and then somehow that they got attached to each other, and the camel wound up being like his pet, and he trying to get back to civilization, and just wound up dying on the saddle.
Yeah. Well, let's get on to the beginning of the legend. Do you mind if I talk about this one?
Yep, go ahead.
Okay. So, like I said, it was Eagle Creek, 1883 in Arizona, and the beginning of the story starts. There was some ranchers' wives that were like in their cabin or whatever, and they started hearing something outside. It was the beast, the red ghost, and it was like knocking around. And I think one of them was outside, or one of them went outside. But anyways, whenever the men came back, they found one of the wives trampled. I guess one of the wives had locked the door, and she ended up hearing the screams and stuff of the other one being trampled to death. Sad.
Ooh.
Yeah, yeah. But whenever the men came back, they followed the footprints, and the only thing they could find was some red hair in a bush. So that's kind of where they're like, oh, it's some sort of red beast. And then a few days later, another group of prospectors reported something tearing through their camp, like knocking down tents and stuff like that. And they also found red hair. And then just a little bit later again, it was spotted. But this time, I don't believe this one at all. But they said that it was 30 feet tall and it knocked over two wagons.
Say people are known to exaggerate size when they're panicked. So
That's true, and I mean camels can go from like 6 to 8 feet tall. I mean they can go pretty tall. So I mean, especially if you were kind of shorter, you could be like, oh, that was a giant.
yeah, and I saw camels up close, so I do believe they could knock over two wagons.
Yeah, I think that's believable.
Yeah, the knocking over two wagons is wholly believable when you see these camels up close, but it being 30 feet tall, more than likely an exaggeration.
And one of the things whenever I heard like red hair, like the red ghost or whatever, I sat there and I'm like, camels aren't really red, are they? They're kind of like a brown or something. But I did see photos of ones that were like red looking, like it looked like had red fur. So I'm like, okay, that's believable.
Yeah, they're kind of like a brown or tan. They kind of look like a white-tailed deer in color.
Yeah.
Just much bigger than a deer.
But like it, I don't know. All right, let's. Do you want to go over some of these other stories? You might have a few more that you heard. I don't know for sure.
Nope, these are basically all the ones I've heard of.
Oh, they are. Oh, okay.
Yep,
I was hoping you'd heard a few more. Do you want to go over them or?
you can.
Okay, I can. Okay. So some of the other stories, which I think most of these are not really believable, or at least a few of them. So one is that it killed and ate a grizzly bear. And I mean, I have a picture of a grizzly bear on here and a dromedary's camel, and I think that one is unbelievable. I can't see a camel killing a grizzly bear. What about you?
I can see it like kicking the bear in the head and killing it, but uh, in any other situation besides that very specific one, yeah, I've got my money on the grizzly.
I'll say, if anything, maybe the grizzly might have been already dead, and it might have ate part of the grizzly, but I don't think it actually would have killed it. I don't know.
Yeah, I've got in a fight. I would have a grizzly bear.
I was saying grizzlies, I think, can get around between 7 and 8 feet tall. So I mean, like, that's when they're on their back legs. So I mean, they're about the same height as that. But one of the other stories was it disappearing into thin air. I guess it was like running away from people, and they lost sight of it. Which, if they was running around in the desert, it kind of blends in with the coloring and stuff. So I mean, if it was dark out, I could see it running away and them just losing it. So I mean, maybe not disappearing like a ghost, but them losing track of it, I think is believable.
Especially on like a windy night and the footprints
Yep.
like just disappearing on the wind.
And every story that I saw, like every single one, it always had a skeleton on its back, a human skeleton. And like that being on everyone's story makes it really believable for me because like everyone was believing the same thing, everyone saw the same thing. It wasn't like, oh, it didn't have a skeleton this day or something. It was just always.
Yeah, definitely believable in that sense. If every story's consistent that it's got red hair and a human skeleton.
Yeah, I think that's what I like about the story is there's not really much supernatural about it. It's just an animal that people kind of like, oh, kind of act like it is. Like there's everything is believable about it, but people at the time thought it was kind of supernatural.
Yeah, but you know, modern lenses.
Yeah. Another story: a cowboy tried to lasso the camel, and ended up getting knocked down and almost trampled and killed. And I mean that, like, just being able to lasso the camel makes it me believe, like, okay, it's definitely not a ghost and it's not a hallucination or anything. Like someone got a lasso around this animal. So
And was almost killed by it.
yeah, yeah. Which I mean, you could be like killed by other things and whatever. I'm saying, oh, it's a red ghost. They did it, but yeah,
Which would have made this camel's body count two.
yeah, exactly. I don't think there's any other time other than that one rancher's wife dying. I don't think it actually killed anyone else, as far as I know. I guess possibly a grizzly bear.
Well, if you're including the grizzly bear and the body on its back, it's got a total body count of three.
I guess that's true. I guess it does have the skeleton on its back, which I don't believe that was the camel's fault. I feel like that he somehow died or something like that, or was hurt already. Kind of like it said the prospector or whatever. He could have already been dying and just died in the saddle. So I don't know for sure if I'd count that one. The rancher's wife, definitely, and if it actually did kill the grizzly bear, then I would count that too.
So at least two, possibly three.
Yes, yes. And then apparently it was saw one time, and 5 men ended up shooting at it, which they must have been very bad shots because every single one of them missed. But somehow they shot the skeleton's head off it. And whenever they found the skull, they looked at it and they found hair and skin still attached to it. So,
Probably thinking, by God, this thing still has hair and skin on it.
I would be terrified about that. Like, just seeing, like, I saw the art and stuff that people have drawn of this thing, and it makes it quite devilish looking. Like, it's one of those, like, an evil, like, I think of camels kind of looking evil sometimes. And just having a skeleton riding on it, too, is just, it adds to it. Okay.
It's insane.
Mm. So, sadly, the legend ends because in 1893, there was a farmer called, his name was Mizu Hastings? Mizo Hastings? Something like that.
It's Professor Hastings, everybody. If you ever played the Pokemon Ranger side games, you may not get that reference.
I'm sure probably a few people have. Oh. But apparently, this farmer, he ended up finding and shooting the camel, and apparently he killed it one shot. He was a better shot than all 5 of those people that were shooting at it later on, or earlier on. And he ended up figuring out the beast was a camel, which I feel like they should have known ahead of time. I feel like if they actually saw it. And there was leather straps stuck to its side so tight that it was scarring the camel, which if it's been running around for how long? 1883 did it say or something? Is that when it started?
Yeah, at least 1883.
Yeah, so I mean, if it's been there for like 10 years, running around, growing and stuff like that with those leather straps on it, I can understand why it'd be scarred. And it's unknown why someone was strapped to it. Kind of like I said, we don't know why the skeleton was on it or who it is or anything like that.
Again, I believe it was a soldier who somehow wound up being on the camel when he died. So
Mm-hmm. And I mean, it could really be anyone because after the Civil War started and stuff, they abandoned or sold them. So I mean, there could have been camels running around anywhere, and people could have just grabbed a hold and rode them. It doesn't even know,
uh,
but there are sculptures of the camel in Quartzsite, Arizona, and it's near the grave of High Jolly, which was an Ottoman camel driver for the Camel Corps. And on the bottom here, this like pyramid with a camel on top, that is the grave of High Jolly. And then on the right here, you can see the sculpture of the Red Ghost, which is that like rims from a tire?
I'm not quite sure what that is.
I don't know. It kind of looks like the rims from a tire and like other pieces of metal just painted red, which it's still a sculpture. And I mean, this isn't as well known as some stories. Kind of like we were talking about Bigfoot in our first episode there. It's like this is not as well known as Bigfoot. So I mean, I wasn't expecting something like wonderful, but
But what an awesome name in High Jolly.
yeah, that is one thing. Like whenever I saw High Jolly, I'm like, that is a really good name. I'm like, that's interesting, I guess. At first I thought it was 2 people, like High and Jolly, but then I'm like, nope, that's one person. I'm like, okay, that works. I kind of want to go there now and see the Red Ghost camel statue sculpture. Maybe at some point I'll get down there.
Just go to Quartzsite, Arizona, just for High Jolly and the sculpture of the Red Ghost.
Yeah, that probably wouldn't be the only reason. I'd probably go down there for other stuff. But I mean, it's one of those things if I drove by and I'm like, I have to stop by there. I have to. So do you want to go over the Beast of Bodmin Moor, Austin?
Yes, I do.
Okay, go ahead.
Uh, the Beast of Bodmin Moor's kind of similar to the Red Ghost because people say it's more than likely a black panther or another large big cat located in Bodmin Moor near Cornwall, England. And it's part of the larger big phantom big cat phenomenon in the UK. And the only wildcat that lives in the United Kingdom is the European wildcat, which is about 26 inches long and weighs about 17 pounds. So definitely not a big cat. And these European wildcats that are in the UK live in Scotland, not England. So,
I didn't know there was any wildcats over in like UK area.
well, the European wildcat is the only wild cat in the UK, and it's not what I call big.
Yeah, yeah, only being like 17 pounds. It's just a bigger house cat.
Yeah, yeah. And the first sighting of the beast of Bodmin Moor was in 1978, with at least 60 more reports since, with a string of dead livestock increasing legend's popularity throughout the years. And it supposedly has prominent teeth and white yellow eyes. And the white yellow eyes apparently is like a common house cat trait. And the UK government opened an investigation into the beast of Bodmin Moor, and no evidence was found either way to prove or disprove the existence of it. And it is believed to be an escaped or released big cat. So from like a circus or zoo or someone owning a exotic pet, which is illegal in the UK. And believe that law took effect in 1976 or so, so about 2 years before the first sighting of the beast of Bodmin Moor.
So what you're saying is, since this they became illegal, people released their big cats, and it ended up causing the big fat cat phenomenon.
Yes.
That's what I'm hearing right here. I saw some stories that people were talking about a zoo or circus that released, I think, like three big cats or something like that. Like it was a story, so I don't. There's not like any like concrete evidence, but it was before this started, so that could be.
Yeah, very well could be the reason why there's so many sightings of these non-phantom big cats in the United Kingdom.
What I did find funny was like I was reading up a bit about the Beast of Bodmin Moor, and it like the Wikipedia page also had a link to Arthurian legend about how like one of the lakes around there was where I forgot the knight's name, whatever the knight was that took the sword from King Arthur before he died and was giving it back to the Lady of the Lake. So like the lake there is where the Excalibur should be technically, if it's still there.
Yeah, and that's another topic we'll get to in the future is
I'm ready for
the
that.
legend of King Arthur.
Mm. Yeah, is there anything else you want to add about the Beast of Bodmin Moor?
Nope.
Nope. Okay. Okay. I guess we can go to our thoughts now if you want to.
Yeah, yeah. My thoughts is the red ghost was proven real with some quite obvious exaggerated details. So I'm gonna say, what's the reason the Beast of Bodmin Moor isn't or wasn't real, but has been exaggerated?
Yeah, I feel like the Beast of Bodmin Moor, it could be true too. I think that, like, especially since they illegalized big cats and stuff like that, owning them, like a couple of years before, they could have been released, and that's the reason why they started killing livestock because no one was feeding them. So, I mean, I think that's pretty believable too.
Yeah, big cats are meat eaters, so
Mm-hmm. My thought is, I love the story of the Red Ghost. Like, I came across it whenever I was making my like learning about camels and stuff like that, and the story is most likely exaggerated to some details, like it being like 30 feet tall, killing a grizzly bear. I think those two probably are fake. I mean, I've not seen a camel fight. I've seen a camel wrestle, and I mean they can wrestle another camel pretty good, but fighting not so much. The whole legend comes out of some truth. So, like the camel corps, like how that led to camels being released, and then there just being a red camel running around Arizona that ended up attacking people and doing stuff. And there's just a little bit of lies thrown in there, I'm guessing for people to feel better about themselves, because how would you feel if you're like, oh, I got beat up by a camel? I don't think that's one thing.
exactly.
I don't think that's something you want to say to someone. It's like, oh, there's this huge camel that ran out of the desert and like knocked over our wagons. It was like 30 feet tall, and I'm like, okay, that sounds scary, but not reliable.
And, and it's red and looks devilish.
Oh, and it's got a skeleton on it, which that ended up
Yeah,
being true, but it's just a clean cut story. It doesn't rely on supernatural stuff. It's not like it was a made up creature that they did. Like Bigfoot quite possibly could be real, but I think it's more made up. It's a good story I like. But this is just a camel running around. And the Beast of Bodmin Moor, it could be real since no evidence was found against or for it. And there was the illegal Cats Act thing interacted. So, I mean, I think it's pretty believable. I also saw a story that they ended up finding a skull for a big cat around there, like at a river. But they ended
yeah,
up,
I saw that too. But
but
it was like a puma or something.
well, it was from a rug. Someone had like a rug,
Yeah,
and they were like, "Oh, it's just from that." And I'm like, "Okay." I got excited for a second. I'm like, "Oh, so it's true?" And it's like, no, the skull just came from a rug, and I'm like, "Oh, okay, that works."
just a tease.
It was very much a tease, very much. I think that about wraps it up then. Anything else you want to say,
Yeah,
Austin?
wraps it up for me.
Okay. Well, thanks for watching, guys, and we'll be back whenever we want to post another one of these videos. We've got a couple more thoughts in mind, so I guess Austin does.
Oh yeah, we've already got our October schedule ready.
Oh, October is wonderful. I love all the horror Halloween stuff.
But that's like just a month for spooky stories, so I just got that month planned out because October is spooky month.
Mm-hmm. I'm ready for all the horror movies that are gonna come out.
Yes.
All right. Well, thanks for watching, guys, and we will see you guys in the next video. Bye bye.